everybody. Good evening and welcome. While we go through our welcome, I also just want to note I saw that there was an Otter AI note taker. I did remove that um, bot from our meeting, and just so everyone knows, Roundtable does not allow AI note takers or any sort of recording device like that during our events. So if you brought one in with you, it will be removed. It has been removed. But this session is being recorded, so you'll have access to that. And let's get going. It's so lovely to have you all here again, whether this is your first session in this series or your third. We're so happy to have you all as part of our Teaching Artist Wednesdays 2025. This is our final workshop of the series called Art-ivation and the Creative Justice Approach, Planning for Integrated Arts and Social Justice with Youth. My name is Kinsey Keck. I use she, her pronouns. I am a white woman with brown hair. It's pulled up in a ponytail today, and I'm wearing some large, round, wire-framed glasses and a very cozy white and blue tie-dyed sweater. And I am sitting in my kitchen, so you can see a shelf behind me with lots of little bits and bobs on it and some artwork as well. And I'm also the programs director here at the Roundtable. For those who don't know, we are a grassroots service organization that works to improve and advance the state of arts education in New York City, New York State, and beyond. Although we are currently meeting online via Zoom, the Roundtable would like to acknowledge that we do work and live on unceded lands. Manhattan, or the place also known as New York City, exists on the contemporary and ancestral homelands of the Canarsie, Munsee, Lenape, and Wappinger people. These sovereign nations and communities are still thriving here, and we continue to occupy their lands. So we'd like to give a moment of respect to them, as well as to the Black and Brown and immigrant communities, which have helped build the city that we know and love today. As we recognize that all of our pasts, presents, and futures are intertwined, we would like to, again, lift up a handful of contemporary Indigenous arts organizations that we can all support and learn from. So I'm just going to paste those links in the chat. If you haven't before, please save them, learn about these organizations, support them with donations if you can as well. And if you have any organizations that you would like to uplift in this moment as well to the folks on the call, please feel free to do so in the chat. I think that's it for my end. So I'm very happy to pass it over to our presenter this evening. Please, everyone, join me in welcoming JL Umipig. JL is the Director of Arts and Cultural Organizing at El Puente. Welcome, JL.
Peace, everyone. Thanks so much, Kinsey. I see some familiar faces and names, so it's really nice to land in a space where there is that, with New York being such a huge space and now the Roundtable being such a huge roundtable. Just to describe myself to folks, I'm a brown-skinned Filipina with, right now I have my hair in a top bun, black hair with also freshly cut bangs. I'm also wearing wire-frame glasses that are circular. Some folks recognize them as Wicked glasses. I swear to you all, I had them before Wicked was the Wicked glasses. And I'm also wearing some really big blue floral earrings. I am so excited to share this work with you all. I've been in the position that was just announced, my position, for the past 6 months, but I've been a part of the Puente community now for 16 years almost. I started when I was in my 20s, right out of school, and continued to work and be grown by the space. And in particular, what has kept me grounded in the work with El Puente is being a part of the founding team called the Global Justice Institute, which is a group of folks that have been a part of the organization that were brought together kind of like the Avengers to work on codifying what it meant for us to share our work at El Puente and move that work so that it could be globally attained and repurposed in different spaces wherever it feels like it would be helpful. I only have like 15 minutes with you all today, so I'm going to do my best to share as much as I can. I believe in the importance of sharing knowledge and that being so important to our freedom and liberation. And so you'll also be receiving a lot of resources post this call, including the materials that you'll be seeing utilizing during our time together. So I hope that it'll be helpful to you, and you'll be able to just contact me if you need anything else in relationship to it and any questions. And I hope that you all, if you're ever in the neighborhood, in Los Sures, the south side of Williamsburg, you can always come by and visit us. So I'm going to start sharing my screen now and offering you all this presentation of sorts. What you all are going to be experiencing is actually the way that we work on training our artists here at El Puente. It's like basically we train them while we actually like do the thing that we're going to be doing. And we also reutilize the tools and build them together through it. So I'm going to be going through this presentation that actually is a part of something that has already culminated. We just recently had a culminating presentation called the Three Kings Show that we have annually for the past 38 years here at El Puente. What it is a huge convening of and convergence of all of the arts at every single site of El Puente, where our young people have a chance to really showcase their work in relationship to a social justice issue or topic that we as a community feel like we've landed with. And so this year, our theme that we've been rolling with is the idea of planting a seed. And so you all will see how that transpires in the work. At El Puente, and so I'm going to utilize this as just a way for you all to understand how we do the work, is understanding our pedagogical framework. At El Puente, we say that arts is where creativity sparks change. And so, as it was said before, my role isn't just in the arts, it's in cultural organizing. And we understand those two things at El Puente are not separate from each other, that all arts is cultural organizing. So this is like our mission in relationship to the work that we do. And I'll be sharing with you all in the folder also some of the things around our action platform for collective self-determination, which is all of the issues that we as El Puente really stand for, but also do direct service work around, as well as create cultural organizing efforts with. And so all of those are outlined here in just kind of a quick way. Understanding that at El Puente, we fight for the self-determined and liberation of all oppressed peoples in relationship to all of these topicalities, and that the arts organizes our people by creating opportunities to be inspired and nurtured to make change through these three things. Arts is a community convener, arts educates, and arts is also a holistic development and healing tool, process, all that. And being able to just like think about this in that way can help us understand why it is cultural organizing. So this seems to be out of order, but the idea of education is the idea that arts communicates beyond difference. We understand that the arts is a way for us to really deliver a message to our community, to be in relationship to language that we may be wanting all of us to be in like coalesced around, and that in it creates an opportunity for awareness, accountability, and agency for our people to be able to move with. So we think about the arts and education and how it can be utilized so easily with all of community, because it really allows us to have a language that evokes more than just a mental experience, but a visceral experience that can really activate our communities in a deep way. The community part is quite easy to understand as well. We know that the arts really is connective for folks. It allows folks to come through and wanna be present to whatever it is that we have to offer. And so sometimes this is kind of like the trick, right? Folks will come to a show, they'll come to like a concert. But if we embed inside of it the message, the education, then it elevates what we have to offer. So we understand that the arts brings community into the space to begin with. And then the other part of it is that the arts is this holistic development and healing tool, that the arts is really generative. We can all name, and we do this exercise quite often, but we can all name a piece of art, whether it be music, a movie, a film, a photograph that we've had be a part of our lives that has impacted us in some ways, and that continues to be with us beyond the moment that we first engaged with it. And so we work with our young people and our artist staff to really develop how to create art that will do that, that will also speak to the larger issues that we speak on. So at El Puente, we understand this, that arts is a very powerful organizing tool because it does all of these things. And so when we create the lesson plans for our young people, we keep these things in mind and at the center of the way that we do the projects and the performances and the events that we do with our young people. And so what I want to offer you all today is a couple of tools that we utilize and that are part of frameworks that we've worked to develop for many years. So as a part of that Global Justice Institute team, but I particularly worked through what we call the creative learning cycle. And so you'll receive like a case study that is in relationship to that in the packet that I'm going to send to you all. So you can kind of look at some of those different frameworks that live inside of the creative learning cycle. But what I'm really going to be talking to you all about today are two things: Art-ivation, and then also the creative justice approach. So Art-ivation is actually one of our newest like models and frameworks that we've been teasing out and testing. It really speaks to the idea of collective creation. So we have the way that we configure things here is that we work with a collective of artists who are facilitators with our young people, and that they come from all the different sites, working with students from elementary school all the way to elders in our like elder community space of Berry Street. And so the artists that work at each site come together and we create the container that will allow the messages to be translated to all of our members, and then for them to be able to create the art that then reconvenes us in an Art-ivation. So we understand that there are different components of that. The first being the education for liberation component, where we utilize the arts as the educational tool, which will do some of that here in the space today. That then from all the gathering of the lessons, the stories, everything that comes through in those spaces, we then create collectively with our young people and within that space as a unit with one another. And then we take what we've created and reintegrate it into the classrooms, into our arts classrooms, to then prepare something that will be offered as an Art-ivation to our community and received and witnessed by the larger whole. So this is kind of that mode. And we utilize what we call the creative justice approach, which is one of our most central frameworks to do that work. And this is supposed to be like a cycle, but it's not meant to be linear. So I'll talk about it in that form, but in order, but I want you to know that all of these things happen simultaneously. Sometimes they happen before and after each other. And sometimes they just like feed into each other in really, really specific ways. Today, what I'm going to be offering to you all is this framework utilized as a way to plan, like have a planning tool for your classrooms and how to create lessons that will be uplifting these modes. What I always offer to the teaching artists also is to keep in mind what will really engage the students in inspiring and nurturing their leadership and understanding what their perspective is, but also really bringing themselves to the lesson, like bringing the artist to the lesson. I really emphasize for our artists, for them to be able to really be in their voice and to have young people be able to feel what it is that they are growing into in their artistry. So a lot of it is also them learning alongside their teaching artists. And so that comes in. I saw something come up in the chat and I want to be like form of content. Chris, I'm not sure what that means, if that's a question or if that's a comment, but maybe if you want to elaborate, you can type some more. But I'm going to keep on moving. So we always speak about being intentional, being just, being clear, and listening deeply to make room for adaptability in all of our lessons. So anything that we planned isn't necessarily going to stay that way. And then what I'm going to be sharing with you all as we talk through is the way that these things really start to show up in the way we plan: the community, the activation, the expression, and the continuity. I'm going to actually leave the screen for a second and share this with you all. This is a tool that we utilize in the beginning of planning sessions. I'll share this in the chat if folks want to scroll through it on their own as well. I'm going to place this in here. But I'm going to just break down the first one, which is around community, so that we can be in relationship to it with each other. Is the idea that in order to create a space that is truly building community with our young people, we have to think about safety, equity and inclusion, accountability, and relationship building that's both planned and organic. That these 4 things are things that we have to be completely intentional about, be just in thinking about how we shape it, be as clear as possible to our young people, and also have the room to adapt around. And so in this tool that I have to share with you all, we formulate this through questioning. When we talk about relationship building, we're asking things like, how are members being given opportunity to get to know each other? How are they given opportunity to deepen their knowing of each other? How do the members have opportunities of collaboration with each other? How are that with all members of the class, not just those they would gravitate to naturally, and how are relationships being honored, supported, and celebrated? So this tool is going to be like something that you all can take a look at and share with any other artists. And they're basically check marks, but they're also ways for you to engage in how to deepen and make the work even more equitable for our young people. And we're going to get into it a little bit more. But so each of these guideposts is really important. But today we're going to really engage with the community one, because that's how much time we have today. And so these slides will also be yours to have, and you can reutilize them if it feels like something that you would want to use. I'm going to bring you guys here. So the theme that we've been working with is planting a seed, and it is leaning toward our mission here at El Puente of inspiring and nurturing leaders for peace and justice. And so we are kind of going back to our roots in that. And planting a seed, yes, has a lot to do for us around some of the stewardship work that we're working on with our young people in terms of EJ, but we're also utilizing it as a really deep metaphor around the ways that our young people really see themselves growing into being leaders in our community. So this is going to transpire and translate throughout the entire year. But the beginnings of it was us in September really working with this thematic to really help our young people understand themselves as leaders. So one of our inspirations was this really beautiful quote that came from Francisco Mora, who was also the partner of Elizabeth Catlett. And both of them were artist organizers who were just like amazing human beings. And so this was a quote that really helped drive the work that we had together. And I'm just going to speak it in English for this moment, but you can plant bad soil, you can plant with bad sky, you can plant with water, you can plant without water, but you can't plant without a seed. And so when we talk about self-determination, we've been working on this concept with our young people. And this describes a little bit more of the theme, but we're going to keep it moving forward. So what you all will be receiving is a series of lessons that I'm going to just offer to you all that we've already facilitated with our young people, where all of the teaching artists basically took this tool and they repurposed it in their own art medium and form in some way. We think of all of our young people as artistic learners, but then we also offer them the opportunity to deepen in some type of art that feels most engaging for them. We teach from like visual art, muralist work, to breaking, vocal work, like all of that. And so I work with the teaching artists to really understand how to utilize that. again, this is like a training tool as much as it is like the ability for them to engage with creating something in extension to what's already being offered. So this was all done in September. And then in October, we took everything and coalesced it. So this is lesson 1. And I'm just gonna move through it kind of quickly with you all, but also like in some engagement. But this is the question that we began in the very first moment that we were with our young people, is what makes someone a leader? And so in the chat box, I'd love to just kind of see what your answers would be. Name as many things you can think of that makes someone a leader. And we'll just go ahead and put that in the chat first and foremost. So what makes someone a leader? And I'm going to start reading some of them out loud. Supporting the community, curiosity and willingness to learn. A good leader listens, ability to listen and analyze, good listeners, inspiring others through their action, listening and responding, cares, listening and compassion, creates a safe room, connecting with people, commitment to others, empathy, integrity, creating spaces and opportunities, creating allyship, someone who listens and has empathy, community connections and authentic relationships, shows possible ways, trustworthiness, advocating for community and leveraging any privilege or access they have to advance the work they're committed to. Their qualities like listen, follow directions, participate, respect, connection with students. Amazing. So just taking a look at all of these answers, I just want to like ask the question, if you think you have any of these qualities that have been spoken and about your community, or do you see any of these qualities in anyone else in the group? You all don't know each other that well yet, but maybe you do know someone in the group. But more so, like, do you think that you have any of these qualities? And if you do, I just want you to drop like an emoji that you like in the chat box. And so we give affirmations to everyone who's putting an emoji in the chat because they recognize themselves as having leadership. But we also make acknowledgement, and I see Chris saying there, of the places where we need to grow and where we want to learn what that means. The word leadership or leader is a really loaded one. It's a loaded one for us as adults, but also for young people as they begin to like really try to understand themselves in the front of the room or understand their strengths, their power. And so we start in this space with them so that we can affirm to them that, like, even if they're in a space of not envisioning themselves as a leader just yet, we're going to work on understanding what leader really means. So I love that the emojis are still coming through. When we were creating this, we talked a lot about how we wanted young people to be in relationship to that word, leader, and really start to like wrestle with it more and more. We also want them to be in a space where they understand that their leadership is something that may be different from someone else's. So we're working on that with our young people consistently. And then we get into some more of the vulnerable conversations of, can you say I'm a leader and believe it? And so when we talked about this with the young people, there were a lot of them that actually didn't feel like they could identify themselves as that. And as opposed to just telling them, no, you are a leader, right? We engage in the conversation of like, why and what in the world makes us feel like we can arise to those gifts within ourselves. So we often try to create this space where our young people can be in their vulnerabilities and be, as like what Chris was saying earlier, be an acknowledgement of their own deficits. I don't like the word deficits too much, but like the things that really need to grow. And then by the time we're done with that conversation, we start to translate things into our theme again. So this is actually, and it's going to be in like the packet again. I'm not going to go through this with you all completely, but what this is a little bit of a meditative moment, a mindful moment for the young people, where we have them envision themselves as being seeds. It was created by one of our movement folks in this space, Efren. And so we have the young people like lay out, we turn off the lights, we let them like really envision themselves as a seed. And then we start to talk about like all of these different things that make a seed what it is. And then we go through that. So again, we find differentiation in terms of the different ways that the young people connect to the work. And then the big thing that we work on in this first lesson is this creation of these seeds. So every artist actually like did this in their own way, but we started with this idea of just like, everyone's just gonna write their name on a seed, and they're gonna write down all of the things that, and draw things that make them who they are. We had some folks make big like seed models with balloons. There was all kinds of stuff that folks really initiated. And then they also received this template of roots, wind, water, and sunlight. And from this, we had them answer questions about who they were. So in the roots, it was to write the name of people who encourage, love, and treat them like they are, that see them maybe even more than they might see themselves. With wind, we asked them to write down things that represent challenges that have grown them, that doesn't knock them down, but test their roots, that may have bent them, but hasn't broken them. Water, these droplets as being life-giving, the parts that of their life that make them feel happy, energized, that helps them feel like they're alive. And then sunlight, the rays were moments and parts that they could recognize or be proud of. It can be big things or small things or anything in between. And we basically like gave time for them to work on this. And this is a really great moment also for some mentorship and like engagement of intimacy. This lesson also can be broken up, not just for one lesson, but it could obviously be maybe 2 or 3. But this moment particularly is when we begin to have storytelling with our young people, and we get the opportunity to get to know things that they want to share, and be in that engagement. And what then we end up doing is we end up creating kind of like this collaging work. So at each center, we had the young people put up, these are actually down now because we're working now on our next phase of things. But we had each center had a wall that they had to select where they would put together kind of like a mural of work of all of these young people's seeds. And so the seeds themselves looked like this, kind of, not in this like super neat way because young people are way more creative. And they were able to really translate these things. We have them in worksheets as well, but we gave free rein because if young people wanted to draw rain in a different way, they could do it. So, but what ended up happening is that each center, we would have a wall with this configuration of them learning about each other. And then the young people would engage with talking about each other's seeds and seeing what it is and guessing what was going to grow from it. So we just kind of would engage with that. And this was our first lesson with everyone. So my question for you all is, how did we see community show up in this lesson, or the opportunities for it? And it could be in any of these things. And this is an opportunity for unmiking because I've definitely been talking for half an hour.
I can't wait to use these as a way to evaluate some of the programs that I run. Also, these questions are so great. So thank you for sharing this. It's such a great tool.
Yeah, I also can share with you all the evaluation tool that we use using this stuff, which is like super great. So thank you, Corey, for that.
I'm working alongside the Bar Foundation to do some research on how arts and help improve mental health. So we're also designing some evaluation tools to be able to show that. So I would love to get your information too, and exchange stuff. That would be great.
Yes, let's connect for sure. But yeah, like anything, like this is kind of like an engagement moment, but we also can move forward if folks are like, I want more, like give me more stuff, JL. But maybe we can name 1 or 2 things that you all saw, like how did we see equity and inclusion? How do we see safety? How did we see relationship building? Like what was most striking in those areas? Accountability moments or moments to like deepen in it. Participants are given a lot of agency making their choices, equity and inclusion. Yes. Amazing. Yes. We love a lesson where kids can just like do something hella different. But if they're inspired and kind of stick to it, we love it. So yes, your questions apply at all levels of experience with equal invitation and resonance. Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna move forward then to the next lesson so that we can just kind of be in relationship. And then from there, I'm gonna kind of give you all like a bigger picture viewpoint of what this becomes. But again, like this becomes a training. So we finish the first lesson in the training and the community aspect, and then the teaching take it, they manipulate the lesson that was created like by us in the first place, and they redo it as a training piece. And then they come back with whatever they've created. So let me present again. So that was community. And in lesson 2, we think about Art-ivation. And so this lesson is like leaders that bloomed. I love this lesson. It was like one of my favorite lessons, and the young people were so like beautiful about it. And we asked them to engage in naming a leader who they look up to. And so I'm going to ask folks again in the chat, name a leader that you look up to. Oh, and then also 3 words that you would describe them as. I just looked at that note right now. So name a leader and who you look up to, and 3 words you would describe them as. Let's do that. Yay, Mom. Oh yes, Resma Medikim. Peter Baynart. Oh my goodness. My mom. Mama's in the room. Thomas Jefferson, Greta Thunberg, Bernie Sanders. Let's see. AOC. And just some of the words that also have been coming up: brave, honest, selfless, wise, honest, compassionate, integrity, bold, inclusive, Lehefa, witty, thoughtful, creative genius, committed, fearless, committed, direct, moral integrity, truth teller, bold, smart. This is beautiful. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you for naming these folks that influence your own leadership and reflect you. Beautiful. It's always really beautiful. Also, this is like a nice check with the young people as to like their own understanding of like who leads them in their lives. So this is a beautiful moment of check-in. But in this exercise, what we do is we basically place images of plants alongside 3 qualities that represent them. And we ask the young people to then choose one of them. So these are around the room. Oh, that's a reveal. So these are around the room. And we ask the young people, I'm gonna try to see if I can. I'm actually gonna share this with you all so you can take a look at it really fast. All right, so in the chat box, I'm gonna drop this down so you all could take a look at them. And then I want you to just choose the one that you feel most attracted to, that you feel like mirrors you in some way, you feel connected to. I'm gonna keep this one on the screen too, but if you open up that, you'll be able to just be in relationship to the names of the plants and their scientific names also. And then you can kind of start to see who has like similar as you. And so this is like a really beautiful moment for the young people because you start to kind of see their personalities come out based on what they choose. There's also a lot of engagement that happens in just talking about this. And yes, you can totally connect with more than one, which happens with some of our young people too. So I'm saying the agency happens, they're like, I choose these 4. And we're like, great, perfect. We're gonna work with that. Yeah. And how beautiful, because like our garden seems really, really like diverse right now, y'all. I don't see very, like I saw a couple of doubling and tripling, but there's a lot of folks choosing a lot of different things here today. So what happens next after they do this is that we do like this like big reveal. We get an opportunity for them to see who it actually represents. And so they receive this thing that is another sheet that we have that reveals all of the different folks and who they are, which is also in your folder, so that you can, just out of curiosity, you can see who you represented. And I'm gonna copy and paste that into the chat for y'all. And you can play with that while I move on with the lesson. But this is just like, again, we grow like the opportunities for storytelling with the young people and for them to like, to see how they engage with it. And a lot of the times young people don't know who the leaders are that exist in this. We were also very intentional about who we chose in like really choosing all of these different folks for different reasons of diversity. But the next thing that they'll work on is they'll work on a mandala. So this is like an opportunity for them to work on a really like great tool. It's also another like moment for young people who are not always wanting to engage like vocally and like be performative or do any of that stuff, like to have a moment to be a pen to paper, to be in like a creative inner space. And we allow them to create something that represents some of the things that they find themselves thinking about in relationship to their person. And then they make a collage out of the words that they have, the image of the person, and the flower that they've created with their mandala alongside the quote. And this ends up being something in the space. One of the really beautiful things that happened with one of our arts classes is that our young people, this was actually right before Dia de los Muertos. And so our young people ended up making like nicho boxes for their artists. And so those were beautifully displayed on our larger altar throughout the month of November. And so this is also an opportunity for them to be in relationship to like ancestors and like what it means to be a part of lineage of leadership. But this is like a really beautiful tool. And we then also engage with them in learning more about their leaders and giving them an opportunity to come back with some of the things that they feel informed about. And one of the things that we love about this is that they choose what they're attracted to about their leader. Like there may be some things that most folks say that they really love about Audre Lorde, but this young person, if they're really engaged, find other things about them. So this is the one that we utilize to talk about Art-ivation and so on and so forth. What I want to tell you all is that like every lesson leads itself forward even more. Because it was the presidential campaign year, we also utilized it to start talking about the presidential campaign and the candidates to our young people. So as you can see, like it's dated, right? We already know who's up in there. So we're here in the future times. But these are the ways that we engage with bringing our young people into the conversation. And this lesson was all about talking about values and how we start to build them when we were children. And so that's this thing. And then they create some declarations about what values they stand on. In the fourth lesson, and then it becomes another part of their collage because we put those in the roots that they had made in their larger collage and we connect them with some yarn in the space. And it keeps on going, and we have like more lessons that happen for the young people that engage them. I'm not going to go through every single one. What I'm going to say is that this is all going to be in your folder for you all to utilize. And it allows us to see how we can deepen the conversation more and more, because we move from this very intimate place of storytelling to now talking about the connectivity to larger issues in the community, the communities they live in, and globally. We connect them to their own sense of like voice and the things that they want to see change in their communities. And then we allow them to see how young people in themselves are leaders, and they begin to identify themselves that at a very young age. And someone said Greta Thunberg earlier, she's in our lesson. But this goes on and it moves forward, and I'm going to stop there. Because what then ends up happening is that we utilize all of this in relationship to our ongoing work as an organization. So the next phase that we're moving into is our Black History Month work, which we're working on work related to Soul Fire Farm and the work of the Penamon sisters, and talking about Black stewardship in the United States when we talk about Black history. And so we're working on this with the young people, and what they're going to be doing is creating a workshop symposium internally for all of our community to be in engagement with. So that's what they're working on. And then in March, we have, oh, that's not it. In March, we have our Women's History Month work, which the thematic that we're working on is the recipe, which is celebrating the lessons and legacies of revolution that's passed down by women in the metaphor of the kitchen. So we're taking the planting the seed opportunity and we're like stretching it through the entire year in our Art-ivations. And so each Art-ivation really grows that in the young people, and it leads us toward doing some actual planting in April for Earth Week. It leads us toward the work in June when we'll be doing Pride work, and Juneteenth, which is a huge celebration that we have here at El Puente. But this is all building blocks, and it's the understanding that it all weaves together. Yes, exactly. It all weaves together. And it's relative to like the way that we plan forward at in our organization. But I'm hoping that these like small tools just to begin with will be helpful for you all to just begin thinking about how you can strengthen that modality. Like obviously we've been around for 42 years, and I've been doing the work with the organization for 16 straight. So it's easy for me to like say, this is just what we do, because it is. But one of the things that I like to share with my young people is that the work to be able to describe, to articulate, to like speak forward what it is you do and how you do it is really powerful, because it allows it to be passed down from one person to the next. So like I said before, I'm gonna like I'm here for like this 50 minutes with you all, but I'm also gonna overload you afterwards with so much material that you can utilize in the ways that you need to. And I'm also hoping that you feel moved to come and visit us here at El Puente, because we are still around in our space that we've been in for the past 40 years. But I wanted to leave the last 10 minutes for any questions or thoughts or things that folks wanted to engage with. We need to be hella generous right now with each other, because that's the type of mutual aid that we need on all levels to be able to make sure that we can free ourselves from all of this craziness. So thank you for the gratitude. We have more to give. Anything that folks have any questions about? I see a hand.
I have a question. Thank you so much. This is great, and I will definitely go visit you. I'm curious, what are like the kids who come to the programs? Are kids? Is this like an after school program, or who are the kids? I imagine like kids from the area from.
Yes, they are from the neighborhood mostly. We do engage with young people coming through, but we also, El Puente also has its own high school that's been around since the 90s. So we have the El Puente Academy for Peace and Justice, which is only one train stop away from this site, which is our headquarters. And then we also have a middle school that's a community school. So a couple of years back, one of our community middle schools was threatened of being closed down, and we became the community-based organization that worked to recultivate it and save it. And now it's one of the most pop-in schools here, and all the gentrifiers want to go to it. There's a wait list, but we're still keeping it like very community. So we get a lot of say about the ways that the curriculum is built and all of that. It's like, it's really hard in Williamsburg, y'all, but we're trying to keep it strong. But yeah, but so our middle school, MS50, you all can look it up as well, is one of our, like, having our own schools is one of the most, for me, like, when we talk about self-determination, that's really like a lot of community control happens when your young people and your families are being driven by the same mission that we do after school as well. It began as an after school program. We still do after school for all of our young people. We also find a part of our organization is also working particularly with project housing, NYCHA buildings. And so we have community centers within the NYCHA housing, like of 5 different places here in the community, where young people go to after school, and we engage in this work with them there. So it's very, very community-based and driven, but we absolutely welcome folks from other spaces to come to the after school programs, particularly high school.
Yeah, I just wanted to say my name is Fumi. How are you?
Peace. Thank you so much for coming and being here.
Well, a wonderful, wonderful program that you're doing. Just wanting to know, is it mostly visual arts based, or do you do music, dance, acting? Are those all intertwined?
Yes, yes, we do. Our acting program is something that's re-emerging after the pandemic. It was like really difficult to get kids to come out here for theater, but we're re-emerging it. But we do have a vocal program. We have a vocal program that's elementary, middle school, and high school now levels. There are Freedom Choir, they're called the Southside Singers. And so we've been cultivating that. We all have a breaking program. We're one of, I think, maybe the only free breaking program for high school and elementary school students in the city. There are definitely programs that you can pay for, but our program is absolutely free to the young people that engage in it. Just a lot of people don't know about it. We also have the dance program that's elementary school, middle school, high school level, and also college level. And I think that's all of the arts currently. Yeah.
And where are you located? Are you looking to collaborate with artists?
We're always looking to collaborate with artists. I actually just got off a phone call with an artist who wanted to work with our youth, particularly with queer youth in high school, around a grant that they had written for Brooklyn Council of the Arts, and they asked to collaborate with us. So we're working with them directly with the high school. So I'm having them come in, engage with the young people during school time, and then we're going to create an after school program around what they've initiated in their grant proposal to do with the young people. So if you all are artists that like want to do that kind of stuff, we're all about it. Like, we're here. Like,
put your information in the chats.
yes, of course. And you'll receive like all my info from Kinsey afterwards as well.
I have a question. The Skull Fire Farm, which is in
Yes.
Hudson Valley, up
Yes.
like in Hudson area, how do you collaborate with them? Do you bring students up here to the Hudson Valley to work on their farm?
Working on that right now, to be honest. Like, actually, Naima Penaman is a really old friend of mine, so like I kind of have like a little in. But they've actually been working, them and Wild Seed, which is their sister farm, have been working on some internal stuff right now. So we're still working on when the best time to engage with them would be, but we utilize all of their materials and their work. The Farming While Black curriculum is an amazing one. So if you haven't engaged with that yet, that's also like a really wonderful tool to work on like land stewardship with young people. But currently, like, we're still working on the logistics of how to get our young people to the farms. What we really are trying to also do is create like small like farming, sharecropping situations within our sites. So one of the projects that's happening during during Earth Week is that we're going to be building planters so that young people can start like building crops in their sites. So that's something that we were working on currently. And then we also have garden spaces that we're reactivating as well.
And one more question, your flowers, when you titled the flowers as the different leaderships, is that based on research or is that your kind of like intuition? Just curious.
that was like a group of artists sitting together, like literally on the floor of like the dance room, just like being like, what flower do you like? And like, what can we, so it was definitely intuitive, but we also engaged in some of the meaning making that we learned from our families or like from our own cultures. And so you saw that a lot of the plants were not just ones that came from, here in the United States, but they were plants from different places because it was the group of folks that were there. So we also invite that anything that we have, like you absolutely should expand on it. If there are flowers that you feel like weren't represented, bring it up. If there's a leader that you feel like needed to be a part of that activity for them, make sure it happens. Like we put our 3 founders in there. If you could see the first 3 were like Francis, Luis, and Gino, it's because we wanted to make sure our founders were in the mix with all those leaders. So
Thank you so much. Very inspiring.
yeah, for sure. And like the yellow rose is Francis's favorite flower.
Roses are my favorite, so.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Anna. Karen, I saw you.
Yeah, you had mentioned that you have a senior center,
We do.
and yeah, and do you have particular curriculum on social justice issues with the senior groups?
We do actually, and a lot of stuff, like we said, is really driven by our communities. And so we're like right now with the elders, they're doing a lot of planting because they wanted a garden really badly. And so we have a couple of artists that work directly at the senior center that we have that's at Berry Street, like the NYCHA building on Berry Street. And so they work with them on that, but we do have those materials. And if you want, I can tap those folks if that's particularly the community that you work with. We can definitely do that. We just began doing that work last year. So we attained that NYCHA space last year, and we were very intentional about it being an elder space because we've done so much work with young people, and intergenerationality is something that we're very invested in right now. So we do
Yeah,
also
I'd love to see the materials for that age group. That'd be great.
Yeah, of course. We also have elder circles that we hold here at El Puente. Our next one's going to be in March for Women's History Month. And so like, I'll continue to share stuff with Kinsey that maybe she can share with the Roundtable. But we're here, y'all. Come and visit us, like for real. That's like one of the main things. We're just trying to get folks to like pull up, So, but I think that that's time-ish. You all can absolutely email me. I'm so happy with responding on a one-to-one space. And then again, like anytime you just want to stop by, there's so much art to engage with in our space, and you can kind of see some of the stuff that the young people are working on. The main space is our 211 South 4th Street place. That's the place where I'm like, come and see us. You can't just walk into our middle school or our high school. It's not available to you, but you can come to our headquarters anytime. And just like, if you'd like to chat, if I'm available, you can. You can also just come in and take a look at the art in the space. So I appreciate you all having me tonight. I do have to run, so I can't engage for much longer, but I will put my email address in the chat, but I know that Kinsey will also be sending it over.
Yes, definitely. Folks, in my wrap-up email next week, I will include JL's contact information. I will include the address for the main space that folks are able to go visit, the link to El Puente's website, and all of these incredible materials. So thank you, JL, again for your generosity, for sharing this space with us, for wrapping up our series so beautifully. Kim, I see your hand raised. Did you want to say something?
No, I was just trying to put some hearts in the
Okay.
chat. Wonderful. Thanks, JL.
That's also real good,
Yes, Yeah, just so grateful to you for ending this series with this. Thank you so much, and I hope you have seen and felt all the love in the space for you sharing this time with us. And folks who are here, I just want to thank you again for being a part of the Roundtable community and for attending this series. We're so grateful to have you all. And please always know that the Roundtable is here for you as well. And you can always reach out to us if you have questions or thoughts or anything at all. We're here. This is the end of the TA Wednesdays series. However, we do have another event next week, virtually on Tuesday. From 4 to 5:30. I dropped the link in the chat. It's our tax and money tips for teaching artists. So please do join us for that if you can. Also, just a reminder that face-to-face registration has opened. You can check out our current schedule and all the fun information about that on the face-to-face website, which is in the chat as well. And you'll be hearing more from us soon. And with that, have a lovely rest of your Wednesday. Thank you all so very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.